She told me, if I want to go out for drinks with my boss at midnight, I will. It's networking. I said, understood. The next morning, she came home to find my key on the counter and spent the entire afternoon blowing up my phone, begging me not to throw us away over nothing. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The smell of garlic and rosemary still hung in the air, a pleasant ghost of the dinner I'd made. Chicken something or other from a recipe I'd saved online, with those little roasted potatoes she likes. Our plates were in the dishwasher, the wine glasses sat empty and side by side on the coffee table, and a documentary about oceans played softly on the TV. It was a Tuesday, a normal, quiet, good Tuesday. Qley was curled against me, her feet tucked under my thigh, scrolling through her phone with a faint, absent smile. Her hair smelled like that expensive coconut shampoo. I remember thinking this was it. This was the peace you worked for. The comfortable silence after a long day. My hand was on her ankle, my thumb tracing a slow circle. Then her phone buzzed. Not a call. A specific, insistent brrrp of a notification. Her body shifted, just slightly. The casual warmth tightened into alertness. She unlocked the screen. The blue light washed over her face, and I saw the smile change. It didn't widen, it sharpened. It became the smile she used in mirror selfies before a big client meeting. Calculated, poised, a performance of confidence. Mark needs me, she said, her voice already drifting away from me, from the couch, from our Tuesday. Okay, I murmured, my thumb pausing its circle. Need what? The Patterson presentation deck. There's a last-minute thing from the London office. He wants to go over it before the morning sync. I glanced at the clock on the cable box. 11:15 p.m. Tonight? Can't he just email it? She let out a short sigh, the one that meant I was being deliberately obtuse. He's at the loft. He said to meet him there. We'll grab a drink and power through it. It'll be an hour max. The loft. The dimly lit, overpriced cocktail bar downtown where the finance bros and aspiring partners went to see and be seen. Not a place you powered through a slide deck. A cold, familiar trickle started in my chest. This wasn't the first time. There was the team-building weekend in Napa where I wasn't invited. The sudden, urgent client dinners that ran past midnight. The new, sharper style of her work clothes. The faint scent of a different, muskier cologne on her blazer 2 weeks ago, explained away as someone bumping into her on the train. But it was the first time it was so brazen. So blatantly an erasure of me, of US, of this quiet peace on the couch. At midnight, I asked, keeping my voice level. Qley, come on. You have a laptop. He has a laptop. You can screen share. What part of a presentation deck requires a gin and tonic at the loft to understand? She uncurled herself from the couch, standing up in one fluid, irritated motion. She looked down at me, and her face was a mask of impatient superiority. This was Qley in her boardroom battle armor. This is a partner-track job, Leo, she said, her voice crisp and cold, each word a little ice pellet. Not your cushy, clock-in, clock-out tech gig. This is how real careers are built. Relationships. FaceTime. FaceTime at a bar after hours with just your boss? The words were out before I could stop them, and I immediately hated how they sounded. Small, suspicious, exactly what she wanted. Her eyes flashed. Victory. She had her hook. Oh, I see, she said, crossing her arms. A smirk played on her lips. It was cruel. This is the insecurity thing again. You can't handle that I have a demanding, powerful job. That my network includes successful men. This isn't about your network, Qley. It's about respect. For me. For this. I gestured between us, at the empty glasses, at the ghost of our dinner. Respect. She let out a dry laugh. Respect is trusting me. Respect is supporting my ambition, not trying to guilt-trip me because you're sitting home alone for one night. It's not one night. It's a pattern, and it's midnight on a Tuesday. She picked up her purse, her movements sharp and final. She slung it over her shoulder, the gesture dripping with dismissal. She looked at me, and all the softness from 20 minutes ago was gone. In its place was a stranger, someone who found me tedious. Let me make this very clear, she said, her voice dropping to a low, venomous register. I am not asking for permission. I am telling you what I am doing. If I want to go out for drinks with my boss at midnight, I will. She let that hang in the air, letting the outrageousness of it burn. Then she twisted the knife, coating it in the language of empowerment and careerism she knew I couldn't argue with without looking like the villain. It's networking. 2 words. A sacred shield for every questionable choice. I just looked at her. I looked at the woman I'd loved for 5 years. I'd helped her study for the LSAT before she switched to business school. I'd driven her to her internship every day when her car died. I'd listened to 1,000 practice pitches. I'd been her safe harbor, her cheerleader, her cushy tech gig that paid for our vacations and the security she took for granted. And in this moment, I saw the truth. I wasn't her partner. I was the backdrop, the reliable, boring stage setting for the exciting drama of her ascension. Mark wasn't just her boss. He was the potential upgrade, the plot twist. And this midnight drink wasn't about slides. It was an audition. An audition she was thrilled to take, and my only acceptable role was to wave from the wings and wish her luck. The love didn't shatter. It didn't even hurt anymore. It just evaporated. It was like watching a mirage dissolve. All the warmth, the history, the future plans, they just pixelated and blew away, leaving behind a cold, clear, and perfectly empty landscape. The fight drained out of me. The tension in my shoulders released. The confusion cleared. For the first time in months, I saw with perfect, serene clarity. She was waiting for a fight. She was braced for an argument, for tears, for me to beg her not to go. She needed that drama to justify her next step, to paint me as the controlling boyfriend holding her back, so she could storm out towards her destiny with a clear conscience. I wouldn't give it to her. I nodded slowly, my gaze steady on hers. I saw a flicker of confusion in her eyes. This wasn't the script. My voice, when it came, was calm, flat, final. It wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a shout. It was a simple statement of receipt. Understood. For a second, she just stood there, the triumph on her face faltering, replaced by a blank uncertainty. She opened her mouth, perhaps to say more, to prod the reaction she needed, but then snapped it shut. The smirk returned, weaker now, propped up by bravado. Good, she said, adjusting her purse strap. Don't wait up. She turned and walked out. I didn't move from the couch. I listened to the precise click of her heels on the hallway tile, the rattle of the door as she pulled it shut, the silence that followed. The documentary was now showing a deep-sea rift, a dark chasm splitting the ocean floor. I picked up the remote and turned the TV off. The quiet in the apartment was absolute. And in that quiet, I made my decision. It wasn't a decision made in anger. It was a simple, administrative task, like closing a redundant account. The clock read 11:27 p.m. I had work to do. The silence after the door shut wasn't empty. It was full. It was a clear, cold substance I could finally breathe. No more walking on eggshells, no more deciphering tones, no more twisting myself into shapes to accommodate an ambition that had long since stopped including me. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just sat there for maybe 5 minutes, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, feeling the ghost weight of her feet on my leg. I took inventory. The fight we'd had last month when I'd asked if she was happy. Of course I'm happy. Why would you even ask that? Are you unhappy? A deflection, not an answer. The way she'd started introducing me at her work functions. This is Leo. He's in tech. As if describing a mildly interesting pet. The vacation to Costa Rica I'd planned for our anniversary, which she'd complained was too far from a reliable Wi-Fi signal, before begrudgingly agreeing to go, only to spend half the days on her laptop by the pool, talking to Mark. It was all a montage of neglect, each scene underscored by her tonight's final, breathtaking line. It's networking. I stood up. My body felt light, unburdened. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a liberation that had been waiting for me to open the cage door. I went to the hall closet and pulled out my gym duffel, the sturdy one I used for weekend trips. I moved with a methodical calm I usually reserve for debugging complex code. This was just another problem to solve. A terminal process that needed to be killed. Rule 1. Take only what is unequivocally yours. Clothes from my side of the closet. My passport, documents from the fireproof box. My laptop, charger, the novel on my nightstand. Toiletries from my side of the sink. I left the monogrammed cufflinks she gave me for my birthday 2 years ago in their little velvet box. I left the expensive watch she'd gotten me last Christmas after her first big bonus. A watch that had always felt less like a gift and more like a brand. A way to make me fit the image of the man she thought should be on her arm. Rule 2. Leave no trace of emotional debris. No letter. No note. Explanations were for relationships where mutual respect had existed. A note would be a thread, something for her to pull on, to argue with. My absence would be the only statement. The key would be the punctuation. I packed the bag in under 20 minutes. It was unsettling how little of my life in this beautifully decorated two-bedroom apartment was truly mine. I'd funded it, but she'd curated it. It was a showroom for a life she was selling, to herself, to Mark, to anyone watching. I took one last loop through the rooms. The living room with the couch we'd picked out together. The kitchen where I'd cooked 100 meals hoping to lure her home. The bedroom that had become just a place to sleep, her back a cold wall facing me most nights. No nostalgia hit me. It was like looking at a staged hotel suite. It had stopped being a home a long time ago. I was just finally checking out. I walked to the kitchen counter. The polished granite she'd insisted was the only acceptable choice. I slid my key off my ring. The silver key to this door, the one that represented security, partnership, shared space. It looked small and insignificant lying alone on the vast, cold stone. I didn't put it on a note. I didn't place it somewhere symbolic. I just left it there, in the middle of the empty counter, under the bright, clinical light of the pendant lamp. A simple, returned item. I shouldered my duffel bag. I took one last, deep breath of the air in the apartment. Traces of rosemary, her perfume, a faint hint of lemon cleaner. Then I exhaled, and with that breath, I let it all go. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway, pulling it closed behind me. The sound of the latch engaging was soft, final. I didn't look back. My car was in its assigned spot in the underground garage. The familiar routine of starting the engine, the headlights cutting through the dim concrete, felt surreal. I drove out into the sleeping city, the streets slick from a recent rain, reflecting the neon and streetlights in long, shimmering streaks. I didn't drive to a friend's place. I didn't want talk. I didn't want sympathy or the retelling of the story. I needed silence to cement the new reality. I pulled into the driveway of a mid-tier chain hotel on the outskirts of the city, one I'd passed 1,000 times and never noticed. The fluorescent glow of the lobby was impersonal and kind. The clerk didn't look up from his phone as he handed me a keycard to a room on the 4th floor. The room was exactly what I needed, blank. Beige walls, a generic landscape painting, 2 double beds I would only use one of. It smelled of stale air conditioner and industrial cleaner. It was nobody's home. It was perfect. I put my bag down. I took off my shoes. I lay on the stiff bedspread and stared at the textured ceiling. And for the first time in months, maybe years, my mind was quiet. The constant, low-grade anxiety of wondering if I was enough, of deciphering her moods, of feeling the slow leak of her affection, it was gone, replaced by a vast, peaceful emptiness. I thought of her at the loft, leaning in to laugh at something Mark said, touching his arm for emphasis. I felt nothing, not anger, not jealousy. It was like watching a scene from a movie I'd walked out of. The plot no longer concerned me. I took out my phone. Calmly, systematically, I opened every app, every connection. I untethered myself. Instagram, unfollowed, blocked. Facebook, unfriended, blocked. Spotify, removed from shared playlist. Venmo, set to private. I left one channel open. Her number. I didn't block it. The part of me that was a scientist, that needed to observe the experiment to its conclusion, wanted to see the data. I muted the conversation so notifications wouldn't show, but the messages would come through if I chose to look. Then, I plugged my phone into the charger, set an alarm for my usual wake-up time, and turned off the light. The darkness in the hotel room was absolute, unfamiliar. And in that strange dark, in a room that smelled of nothing I knew, I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The kind of sleep you only find when a terrible, draining weight has been lifted and your soul finally has space to stretch out and rest. I didn't wake once. The peace held. My alarm chirped at 6:30 a.m. I opened my eyes to the unfamiliar ceiling. For one disoriented second, I didn't know where I was. Then the memory of the previous night washed over me, not as a shock, but as a simple fact. Oh right, I left. I felt rested. Clear-headed. I got up, showered in the cramped stall, and dressed in clothes from my duffel bag. I had a standing 9 a.m. scrum meeting. My life, was waiting. As I was tying my shoes, my phone, face down on the nightstand, began to vibrate. Not a call, a rapid, frantic series of buzzes. Text messages, one after another, piling up in the silenced void I'd created. I finished tying my laces. I took my time. I packed my toiletries back into the bag. I smoothed the wrinkles out of the bedspread. Then, and only then, I picked up the phone. I didn't open the messages. I just watched the preview lines flash on the locked screen, one after another, a frantic, scrolling ticker tape of a world I had just left. Qley, 6:42 a.m. Leo, where are you? My key didn't work. Qley, 6:44 a.m. Did you change the locks? What the hell? Qley, 6:47 a.m. Why is your key here? What's going on? Call me. Qley, 6:53 a.m. You're really doing this? Over one stupid fight? You're throwing away 5 years because you're insecure? Qley, 7:01 a.m. Please, baby. I'm sorry. I was stressed. It was just work. Come home. Let's talk. The preview for the final one cut off, but I could see enough. Qley, 7:15 a.m. Don't throw us away over nothing. I smiled. A small, quiet, private smile. Then I swiped the notifications away, cleared them all. I picked up my duffel bag, took one last look at the blank, forgiving room, and walked out the door. The morning air outside the hotel was cool and clean. The sun was breaking through the clouds. I had a meeting to get to. The next week was a study in silence. I didn't go back to the hotel. I called my landlord, a decent guy named Ray, and explained there had been a sudden, permanent relationship breakdown. I asked about breaking the lease. He heard the calm finality in my voice and, after a sympathetic grunt, said he'd sort it out, citing a family emergency clause we could use. I offered to pay 2 months' rent as a penalty. It was a cheap price for my freedom. I rented a furnished studio apartment downtown. It was smaller, brighter, and had a view of a brick wall. I loved it. It was mine. Every decision in it, from the coffee brand to the direction of the couch, was mine. The silence there wasn't heavy. It was spacious. My phone was the window to the storm I'd left. I checked the muted thread with Qley once a day, like reading dispatches from a distant, collapsing empire. The dispatches, day 1, a waterfall of panic, anger, and manipulation. Qley, 8:02 a.m. You're really ghosting me? After everything? I can't believe you're this childish. Qley, 11:30 a.m. My mom says you're having a meltdown. She says I should give you space. But this is insane. Qley, for 17 p.m. Leo, please. I'm sorry about how I said it, but you have to understand the pressure I'm under. Mark says this presentation could make my career. Qley, 11:11 p.m. I'm sitting in our apartment alone. It feels so empty. I hate this. Please come home. Day 2. The tone shifted to wounded confusion. Qley, 9:15 a.m. I don't understand. Was it really just the drinks? Are you that insecure? We can get couples counseling. I'll go. Qley, 7:45 p.m. I told Mark what happened. He thinks you're being emotionally abusive. Controlling. That one almost made me laugh. He thinks I'm abusive. The projection was perfect. Day 3. Bargaining. Qley, 10:05 a.m. What if I promise? No more late work things without you. We can set boundaries. Just talk to me. Qley, 5:20 p.m. I went by your office. They said you were working from home. Where are you staying? A cold spike went through me. She was scouting. This wasn't just grief. It was a retrieval mission. Day 4, the first voicemail. Her voice was thick, artificially sad. Leo, it's me. I'm at a loss. I keep replaying it, and I miss you. This is all such a stupid misunderstanding. Call me back. Please. We're better than this. I deleted it. The performance was poor. I could hear the calculation underneath, the careful placement of each wobble in her voice. Day 7, the first proxy. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. Hey Leo, it's Jessica, Qley's friend. Look man, she's devastated. She made a mistake, okay? She was stressed about work. You're really going to throw away a 5-year relationship over one night. Be the bigger person. Call her. My response. Blocked. Day 10. The narrative was solidifying in her camp. I was the insecure, controlling boyfriend who'd abandoned her over her stellar career commitment. I could feel it. I didn't care. Then, 3 weeks in, the first crack in her reality appeared. It came from Derek, a mutual friend who'd always been more of a neutral observer. He called. I almost didn't answer. Leo, hey, just checking in, man. Heard things went nuclear. They did, I said, my voice even. Yeah, look, I'm not picking sides. But I thought you should know. Things at Qley's firm are messy. I stayed silent, letting him fill the space. There was some huge HR complaint. Not against her, but involving her. With Mark. Apparently his wife got an anonymous email with some pictures from the loft, and not of a presentation deck. I didn't ask for details. I see. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Mark's on forced leave. Rumor is he's throwing anyone he can under the bus to save his own skin. The rising star thing Qley had going, it's not looking good. Atmosphere is pretty toxic for her there now. That's unfortunate, I said, and I meant it. It was unfortunate, in the way a natural disaster is unfortunate. A predictable consequence of building on a fault line. She's telling people you left because you couldn't handle her success, Derek said carefully. But the timeline with this HR thing, people are putting 2 and 2 together. People often do, I replied. Thanks for the call, Derek. I've got to go. I hung up. The karma wasn't sweet. It was just logical. Cause and effect. She'd bet on Mark as her ladder up. He'd used her as a distraction, and when caught, he'd sawed off the rung she was standing on. The messages stopped for a while after that. Radio silence for 2 weeks. I imagined the chaos, the HR meetings, the sidelong glances from colleagues, the frantic damage control. Her perfect career narrative was unraveling, and the man she'd chosen it over was gone. Then, one evening, a new flurry. The tone had changed. The anger and manipulation were gone, sandblasted away by sheer desperation. Qley, 11:14 p.m., they let me go. They said it was a culture fit issue. It was him. He told them I was a liability. He said I came on to him. Qley, 11:16 p.m., I have no one, Leo. No one. My friends, they don't get it. I think they believe him. Qley, 11:23 p.m., I'm so alone. I'm so sorry. For everything. You were right. About all of it. I was blind. I read them in my quiet studio. I felt a distant, academic pity, the kind you feel for a historical figure who made a famously bad strategic error. I didn't respond. Responding would be a rope thrown into a quicksand pit. I was on solid ground. I was not going back in. A month later, her mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Leo, dear, it's Marion. I don't know what to say. Qley is, well, she's not herself. She's lost her job, her confidence. I know she hurt you. But what you're doing, this silent treatment, it's cruel. She's learned her lesson. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive? She needs you now. I deleted the message. The entitlement was breathtaking. She needs you now. As if I were a tool to be picked up when useful and discarded when not. The apple hadn't fallen far from the tree. I didn't block her mother. I just didn't save the number. A year to the day, almost to the hour, after I'd left my key on the granite, I was coming home from a run. My life was different. The studio had become a one-bedroom with an actual view. I'd been promoted to lead a new project team. I'd started seeing someone, casually, a graphic designer named Maya who laughed easily and had no interest in corporate ladders. She was at her own place that night. I was looking forward to a shower, a steak, and a new documentary. I turned the corner onto my street, my running shoes silent on the pavement, and saw her. She was sitting on the low stone wall that bordered my building's small courtyard, like a lost tourist. She looked smaller. The sharp, expensive blazer was gone, replaced by a worn-looking sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, no elaborate styling. She was staring at her hands. When she looked up and saw me, her body jerked as if shocked. I didn't break stride. I didn't speed up or slow down. I walked toward my building's entrance, my keys already in my hand. Leo. Her voice was raspy and used. I stopped a few feet from the courtyard gate, not entering her space. I looked at her. I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, not nostalgia. It was like looking at a piece of furniture left by the previous tenant, familiar, but wholly unrelated to me. Qley, I said. It was a flat acknowledgement, the way you'd say mailbox. She stood up, wringing her hands. God, you look really good. I said nothing. I just waited. The dam broke. It was a torrent of rehearsed misery. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I was obsessed with the idea of success, of being someone. Mark, he manipulated me. He preyed on my ambition. I was so stupid. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my friends, they all believed his version. I've been in therapy for 6 months. I understand it all now. How much I hurt you. How I took you for granted. You were my rock, and I threw you away. She paused, her eyes searching mine for a flicker of sympathy, a crack in the door. She found a smooth, impenetrable wall. I've changed, Leo. I'm not that person anymore. I'm humble now. I get it. What we had, it was real. This past year has been hell. Just empty. And it's made me see how full my life was with you. How much love I just discarded. She took a shaky step forward. Can we just talk? Not to get back together. I'm not asking for that. Just to clear the air. For closure. You owe yourself that, don't you? To not just run away. There it was. The final, feeble hook. You owe yourself. Making my peace contingent on hearing her out. I looked at her. I saw the desperation, the crumbling facade, the utter ruin of the proud woman who declared her midnight networking rights. I thought of the silent, peaceful year I'd had, the steak waiting for me in the fridge, the calm in my chest. Qley, I said, my voice calm, polite, utterly devoid of emotion. It was the voice of a bank teller denying a loan. I appreciate you coming by to say that. Truly, I'm glad you're in therapy. I hope you find what you're looking for. Her face crumpled, not into tears, but into a mask of frustrated disbelief. This wasn't the script. Where was the anger? The tears? The feeling? But, she stammered. But that's it? After everything I just said? I hope you find what you're looking for. Leo, I'm telling you I'm looking for you. For a chance to make amends. For you to see I'm not her anymore. I tilted my head slightly, as if considering a mildly complex math problem. But you are, I said quietly. You're still framing this as something I need to do, to see, to understand, to forgive, to give you closure. You're telling me what you need. You came here for a resource you thought I still possessed. My attention, my emotional labor. She blinked, stunned. The therapy speak she'd been using had been reflected back, weaponized. I don't have that for you anymore, I continued. I closed that account. There's no balance to settle, no air to clear on my side. My closure was the sound of the door locking behind me. The frustration in her eyes boiled over, burning away the performative humility. The real Qley, the one beneath the new, bruised exterior, flashed through. Her voice hardened, turning sharp and accusatory. So that's it. You're just going to let me drown? After 5 years? You were supposed to be the good one, the decent one, and you're just this cold, emotionless robot. I almost smiled. The mask was fully off now. She wasn't a penitent. She was a failed strategist. Angry her last-ditch maneuver had been effortlessly deflected. I looked past her, at the entrance to my building, at my sanctuary of peace. I brought my gaze back to hers, holding it with a calm finality that felt like turning a key. You told me it was nothing, I said, my voice so quiet she had to lean in to hear it. That night, you begged me not to throw us away over nothing. I believed you. The color drained from her face. She understood. She had minimized her betrayal into oblivion, and I had simply accepted her assessment. If it was nothing, then leaving was no loss. I had taken her at her word. I saw the horrifying comprehension dawn in her eyes. She had authored her own irrelevance. I didn't wait for a response. I turned, inserted my key into the gate lock, pulled it open, and stepped through. I walked the 10 steps to the building's inner door, unlocked it, and entered the warm, quiet lobby. I didn't look back. I didn't hear if she cried out or left. The only sound I registered was the solid, resonant thunk of the heavy glass door closing and automatically locking behind me. The sound was familiar. It was the same sound I'd listened for a year ago, lying in a hotel bed, finally free. It was the sound of my peace, intact and undisturbed. I rode the elevator up to my apartment. I took my shower. I cooked my steak. I turned on my documentary. This one was about the restoration of ancient forests. I sat on my couch, in the quiet, spacious home I had built for myself, and I did not think of her at all. She had become exactly what she'd insisted her betrayal was. Nothing. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.